Good evening. It's Thursday, the 25th of May. And David and I have agreed, because there's only the two of us and we can talk for the whole of UK, not just England, that we're going to keep this relatively short, inspired by the fact that our New Street Authors, of which David is chair, starts at 7 o'clock, and we're now just a few minutes before 6. But also, it's not a topic, script writing is not a topic I'm overly familiar with. And there were two people who wanted to join this evening, but ironically, not really ironically, but they're at the theatre and they're behind the scenes. They're not actually on a trip, but they're involved in the theatre. So they are interesting people to have involved. One of whom I've known since I was 16, so that's lovely. And so we are going to revisit this topic next week. But I'd love David's take on, because I know sort of theatre came before your novel writing or alongside, but certainly your history goes back a while on script writing. How did you get into script? And I love it in a way. I love it because it's dialogue primarily with some stage direction. But I did have a go at it for Script Frenzy, which was back in the day part of NaNoWriMo, and I think it was every April was to write 100 pages of script, which I did once. But I found the format very bitty.
Would this be script for film or for theatre?
It didn't really matter. It
All
was
right,
just
okay.
a script. It really didn't matter. But it was just to get it down. Like NaNoWriMo, where the
Yeah.
aim was to write 50,000 words in a month, was to get 100 pages of anything. Prepare as much as you like to the end of
There
March.
is a fair difference between writing for film, writing for stage, and writing for radio. You
Okay,
should leave
yes, because you
radio
can't
out.
see anything.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
People say, "Oh, your play was very talky. It'll work well on the radio," and
right.
that's a way of spotting radio producers. You say that in a crowded room, and all the radio producers will go,
Okay,
because it's not. Radio is actually a lot closer to film than you think it is,
mm,
despite the fact you can't see anything.
right. Because obviously, I mean, with anything, with radio for sure, it relies on the sound,
Mm.
on the voice, what's said, how it's said, and sound effects. So, for instance, if you're listening to a play on Radio 4, you'd have to, I guess, not have a cast of too many people, which if you're on TV, it doesn't really matter. If you're on a stage, you're limited
Yeah,
because of the
on
geography.
radio, you can't have too many characters because there's too many voices,
Mm,
and you can't have too many scenes because it takes quite a while to set a scene
right.
to know exactly where you are. On film or TV, for example, you can cut backwards and forwards between scenes quickly. You
Mm,
just see it, you know exactly where you are.
mm,
Radio, you need seconds and seconds of wind noise to say you're on the Dartmoor. Um,
right.
and if you're in an empty warehouse, it's going to sound exactly the same as an empty country house. It's tricky to do,
Mm,
um, but it's an interesting one. Um, but how did I get started? I was always trying to write novels and stories. And my partner got involved in a local amateur dramatics group,
mm,
and I swanned in because it sounded interesting for the next production. And she'd done all her backstage stuff as apprenticeship to have a part.
okay.
Because I was a bloke and they were desperately short of blokes, so straight in with a part.
Wow.
And a little group of us started to get rather good in this environment.
Mm,
So the director said, "Let's enter this drama festival," and she brought out all these one-act plays to do,
mm.
and they were all about middle-aged couples in sour marriages. And we'd just done like 3 plays on the run about middle-aged couples in sour marriages. So very, very arrogantly, I said I could do better, because you then have to, don't you?
Well,
Um,
it's funny. A lot of writers, a lot of novelists started because they read novels and they said they could do better.
yeah, and we did this one-act play, and then it was great fun to do. And then she said, "You
Mm,
have to come along on Saturday for the award ceremony." We went along to the award ceremony. We won the Rose Bowl, which is this enormous, great silverware thing.
wow.
Um, and we went for a curry afterwards, myself and the cast,
Mm,
and we were drinking lager out of this huge, great silverware in the middle of the table. And I thought, I quite like this writing lark.
yes.
So I entered this one act festival every year. writing a different play for it.
Okay.
Won some more silverware, which was very nice. But also, it is a fantastic way to learn how to write. It
Yes.
really is. You write a play, and then you hide in the audience,
Mm.
and then your surprising moments get a gasp, your gags get a laugh.
Mm.
There's none of
Hopefully.
this. Give somebody a novel, and then 6 months later you say, "What did you think?" and they go,
Yes.
"Oh, it was all right."
Yes.
No
Or
use.
a review. Wait for the review on Amazon.
But with a play, a one-act play doesn't take that long. You can get a small cast together, do it in an upstairs room in a pub,
Mm.
and you get really honest feedback from the audience as to what works and what doesn't work.
Mm.
And I really recommend that.
And has it changed the way, I don't know how much writing you did up to that point, did it change the way you look at dialogue?
Um,
Because obviously,
yes, yeah.
as we write, we should either get our computers to read it out aloud or read it aloud ourselves.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got other people interpreting your words, and presumably there'd be some fluctuation. So, did they ever ad lib? Did you, or were they pretty good at sticking to what you'd said, or come up with
Um,
suggestions saying, well, "How about I do it like this?"
because I also directed.
Okay.
So you come in as a director with a very clear idea of what you want.
Mm.
But I was quite flexible in if an actor had problems saying a line, that could well be because it's a very badly written line.
Right.
So I'm not precious about the actual words.
Mm.
Um, just as long as the idea came across and they could perform it well.
Mm.
Uh, I was involved in a play backstage where they were hacking away somebody else's play, just removing lines and things. And I started to step in and try and defend the writer because I thought that was a bit extreme.
Right.
But if you get too precious about your lines, I don't think you'll have a good time.
No.
Um, there was a play of mine which I directed, which somebody else, another company, went and did. And I had nothing to do with the production. I just turned up for one of the nights.
Mm.
Uh, and the interpretation of the main character was completely different. Instead of
Really.
being a nervous character, it was quite a Jack the Lad character.
Okay.
A bit of a kind of, oh, but I thought, no, that's perfectly reasonable. That's a good interpretation of it.
Mm.
It's one of the strengths of theatre is it gets reinterpreted,
Right.
which is different from a film being remade.
I think we were talking the other day. I think it was you who mentioned that you can have your plays in a sort of access, a bit of a library, and if they get performed, you get paid. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
remember where they're held, but there's a company
It
that,
depends on the company that's involved with the play. So there are half a dozen, if that, companies where you
okay,
can go along and say, I'd like to do that play, and they go, okay, you pay us
pay a certain.
whatever it is, and some of that will get to the writer
Mm,
of the play.
okay. And how because obviously a lot of it's dialogue. You got stage description. Were you writing? How much were you writing before you became involved in? Because you
Um,
said you wanted to write a novel. Did you find it changed your dialogue?
yes. Um, Beforehand, when I was trying to write short stories and so forth, went to writers' workshops. The advice was always to everybody was put more dialogue in, put more dialogue.
Music to
After
my
I'd been,
ears because I love dialogue.
yeah, after going through the theatre writing process,
Mm.
dialogue is my go-to. In fact, if anything, I need to start taking dialogue out
Right.
and put more description in, because that's the first thing I'll start writing. The first key I will press is open double quotes.
Right. I like it when a story opens or a novel opens with dialogue because it's the main difference between if you've got description, that's the narrator telling us what happens.
Yeah,
Whereas if you've got the character saying something and how they say it,
yeah.
it's more vivid, naturally more vivid.
I mean, we're interested in the human condition. That's what writing's all about. And
Mm,
people talking to one another or saying things is
mm,
the human condition writ large, is it not? Yeah.
mm. Do you
So that's, yeah, where I go to straight away is dialogue.
right? And do you follow a certain format? Because I understand some. I don't know whether it's different for stage and screen, whether you have the names on the left hand side or at the top in the middle.
I suppose there are three formats, aren't there? One is prose, straightforward, what you get in a book. Then there is play script layout, which is, I'm going to have to turn around to get my directions correctly. Name of character here, the dialogue. So okay. It's down the left-hand side, you get the person's names. Right. The advice is always cover up the names. And if you can read the line of dialogue and know who it is, then that dialogue is working. So that's the format that I used when I was doing theatre plays. And then there's film script layout, which is this abomination of a typewriter. We use Courier, and it's all centered, and it's big letters. It's as if it was developed in the 1950s when there were typewriters, before proper fonts were invented, and where there was inkjets now. And it's just horrible. I was in computer science research looking at readability on computer screens. And if you had to devise something that was difficult to read, it would be film script layout.
Right.
It's just terrible. When I did film scripts, I would do it as a theatre play. So much easier to read. And then I'd reformat it kind of automatically afterwards.
Well, occasionally, very rarely now, but occasionally I have had novels sent to me in Courier. And I've had to, even if I know I'm going to change the font again, I just change it. I quite like Garamond. I think that's one of the recommended, traditionally published.
It's Garamond is what I use for my novels.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sort of a fairly recent convert to that. I'm in the process today of using Atticus, which I haven't used before, which, like most things, I feel it was designed by somebody who knows what they're doing, because even the tutorials, there are different tutorials for different aspects, but there's sort of a bit of a gap. It tells you to do one bit, but it doesn't tell you how to get from the end of that bit to the next bit. So there's a lot of trial and error, but I've never used it before, and I'm trialing on a client, a mentoring client's book. But it's a really interesting tool for different, making it look nice.
Yeah.
There we go. So are you still involved in the theatre and scripts, or are you purely on novels?
No. I had a bit of a falling out with someone in theatre.
Okay.
So theatre jobs were lined up, and then that person went and gave it to somebody else without telling me. So I turned down a lot of work, theatre work, because I had a job lined up in the summer.
Yeah.
Which is a bit irritating. Okay. So we definitely had a falling out over it. He banned me from his theatre.
Oh, right. Yeah, not a lot you can do about that.
Yeah. And then the next week, a Mardicon down in Plymouth rang me up and said, would I be a guest of honour at their science fiction convention? So literally the door to theatre slammed shut, and this other door opened. And I thought, right, I'm a novelist. Yeah. I'm not done,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, how wonderful.
I do miss it. I developed an awful lot of skills doing it, which are just not being used.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because I look after the local book. I call them book swap libraries. They're not all, the council ones aren't book swaps. So you can go and get a book and you don't have to put it back or put another one in its place. And one recently was JK Rowling's Fantastic Beasts, and there was one, can't remember her name now, but there was a book out in the last couple of years. It just came to me now, where it was murder of something, and it was written, although it was written as a TV script, and I think I've got an idea. It was set in a TV studio, and the sort of one of the main presenters was accused of murder, and it's all done as, I don't know whether it's a police interview. I did actually go to the talk at Beacon Lit a couple of years ago, and it's interesting how, I don't know whether it's a new thing that people are experimenting with different formats, but you kind of think, if somebody, it would have sold, Fantastic Beasts would have sold because it's JK Rowling and it's Harry Potter, but I just wonder how many people would have bought the script and got on with a book hardback as a script, rather than as the play, there was Cursed Child as well. I think that was the first one written, published as
people
script.
do buy play scripts.
Mm.
It was a very famous 18th century, 19th century playwright who didn't believe plays should be performed on the stage.
Okay.
Very strange. I'd be so much more knowledgeable if I could remember who that was, but I
Right.
can't. Um, I mean, yes, but Garamond properly formatted as prose is probably the easiest thing to read off the page.
Mm. Right.
I mean, you hear people who do screenwriting, films and TV, and they go on and on about this wonderful format that they've got because it's a page, one page is a minute.
A minute.
That's what we always say. And it goes,
Yeah.
it's just dreadful. It
Right.
wastes paper. It's difficult to read. It's just
Mm.
what they're used to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I volunteered, not really being any the wiser, but last year when I went to Swanwick, and I'm back more wise this year, going back in August, where I'd volunteered to act, and I hadn't acted until since I was a teenager at secondary school, and we all had a script, so I think we had a meeting, anybody who was interested, on the Tuesday, and then it was to be performed on the Thursday. And we had a couple of days for the script, and we had a 2-hour meeting in the afternoon ahead of the performance on a Thursday, and they were only literally 5-minute one-act plays, and you didn't have to remember anything. There were some who did. They'd learned in that short amount of time. They'd learned. I'd love to know how. It's just repetition,
yeah.
how you learn lines, and unfortunately it was a bit too close to home. I was playing effectively my brother, and I didn't want to say I'd changed my mind or could I have a different part, and because I thought it'd be quite fun doing it. It was just unfortunately the wrong character in the wrong play for me, and so we had the choice of acting, directing, which I wouldn't have a clue, or being a stagehand. So this year, when the time comes on the Tuesday, and they go, well, would anybody like to be involved in the
Hmm.
plays this Thursday? I will go. I will move a table for you, put a chair in the right place. Just don't ask me to speak.
Well, you do need a good backstage crew.
Yes.
I did these massive plays at science fiction conventions with more than 50 people in the cast and crew.
Wow.
They were enormous, ludicrous things to direct.
Right.
We had video projections, stunt performers, choirs. I mean, they were completely over the top. Uh,
Mm,
and I do remember once I was playing two characters on stage, despite the fact we had 50 people in the cast and crew.
right.
So much doubling up, so many different characters.
Yeah.
And I was at one stage, one of my characters was literally chasing the other one.
Okay.
So I was doing quick change acts and coming back as the other character and coming back off and all the rest of it. It was getting closer and closer towards the end. And I do distinctly remember this one moment where I came off stage and the character was then in video projection going around the back of the theatre. But obviously I wasn't doing that because I was getting changed as the other character. I
Sure.
came off stage and my brain failed completely. I just stopped, couldn't move, just didn't
Yeah.
know where I was, what I was doing. I didn't know anything.
Sure.
And my stage manager, Kathy, grabbed hold of me, pushed me around where I had to go,
Right.
gave me the costume change, and pushed me on.
Yeah.
I'd still be
And
standing there now.
how much notice have you got to prepare all of this?
We'd had loads of rehearsals. I was one of the wicked people who insisted on rehearsals at Easter cons and at the SF
Right.
conventions.
Right.
So it used to be, that David Wake, he does rehearsals.
I'd need 100. I think even just
Yeah.
I at school I had 2 lines in the school play, and I only ever remember being in one, so it might have been obligatory. And I had 2 lines and I wrote them on the inside of my left hand. And I had my line, then somebody else replied, and then I replied to that, and then left. So no biggie. And I remember being on the wings. I don't remember a lot from school other than the PE shorts and the actually nice uh, Mandarin cheesecake. Was really the
Mm.
best thing about secondary school, apart from art and English literature. And so I'd learned on the wings, and I knew it already. We'd had weeks in advance. So I read this line to myself. I went on, I said this line, the other person said their line, and I went, oh, and then read that.
I think if you write it down, it doesn't work.
Right.
We had another play. One of the people was a bit ill, but went on anyway. But knew he was going to have problems, so he stuck his script on this table he had to be around.
Right.
It was this scene had 3 of us in. Okay, we came in. We started. It was only a page long. This scene. We started off, did quite well early on, and then I made a mistake. I said a line from 3/4 of the way down.
Okay.
The guy who was slightly ill had his script on the page. He didn't know what to do, so he just said his next line automatically, no matter what happened.
Yeah.
I panicked and then started saying lines randomly from the play. And the other guy started to ad lib to try to knit it all together.
Right.
And we went round this scene 3 times before we came out.
Was it a comedy? Was it supposed to be a comedy?
It was a comedy.
Okay, so that's all right. At least you can get away with that kind of thing.
Yeah, but I edited the video. I edited the video, and I literally had different takes of different lines, and I put it all back together the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, how funny.
But yeah, no, don't put your script on your hand.
Right.
Not going to work.
No. No. Well, I think one of the ideas tasks I do in an ideas and inspiration workshop is a word web. So you start off with a word in the middle, and there's sort of a spider's web, a bit like your frame behind you, your divider behind you.
Right. Okay.
Where you'd have a word in the middle, and then you have offshoots, and then you can just, so I'd say if you've got something like hand in the middle, one of the offshoots could be you go bag, so handbag, and then Margaret Thatcher, and then you could go, 1970s, whatever, 1980s, and go off at varying tangents thereafter. And whenever I say the name Margaret Thatcher, I don't think, unless it's already written down, I don't think anybody would, or say any name of any famous person, they wouldn't think of the name written down. They'd picture. So we do tend to work in pictures. So do you ever, when you're writing, when you were writing script, when you are writing your novels, do you ever picture how the scene is?
Yes, but not all the time.
Right.
I remember this coming up in a previous mini-fest. Sometimes I picture a scene, and sometimes I'm just moving the words around.
Right.
And I don't think it comes across as to which is which. I think it just depends on your mood at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly when I was writing one-act plays and these big SF plays, I would have an eye to how it would be directed and how to stage it.
Okay. Because you have that background as well, so I think it's probably natural.
I mean, I had awful difficulties writing film screenplays because I was never sure how much money I was allowed to spend.
Right.
Because there's certain rules. A nighttime scene costs twice as much to film as a daytime scene.
Okay.
Because you've got to pay everybody overtime.
All right.
Yeah.
Lighting and. So
it was really quite difficult. But once I got into the theatre, that became easy because, if I could work out how to do it on stage, I could do it.
Yeah.
I didn't need to ask anybody if I could spend that amount of money.
Yeah.
I knew I could do it. And you can do extraordinary amount of stuff on a bare stage with actors. For some reason, theatre goers buy into imaginary stuff very easily.
And certainly, if it's about middle-aged marriages crumbling, you just need a table and chairs or a bed or fairly basic.
Well,
basic stuff.
Like one of my first full-length plays I toured, a comedy. It was two-handed, 2 people, and I wanted to have it with just 3 chairs on the stage.
Right.
And where the chair was placed dictated what the scene was.
Okay.
I failed in that one because it also had a table and a fridge.
Right.
So didn't quite get to the heights of perfection with it.
No.
Well, it's a good play, but that's interesting because to change a scene in theatre, you kill the pace.
Yes.
Every single time you close the curtains and open the curtains again.
Yeah.
This one,
be a natural break.
I wanted to really have a fast pace to it, so it was pick chair up, bang it down, new scene.
Right. Okay.
That worked, and I found that the audience could follow it because we're now used to fast cutting in TV.
Mm,
You can now use that in stage because we know the language.
okay. If your books, if you had the film or TV rights sold to any of your films, and they said to you, "Will you write the script?" Do you think you would? Do you think it's better to have the author write the script if they're able, because they know it so well, or would you like to see what somebody else does? Say your
Um,
43-year book.
um, oh, can I bear to spend another 43 years writing the film script? I did an MA course in writing, and in the film script writing module, I wrote. No, it wasn't. It was my final project. I wrote a screenplay for that. Um, and my tutor said I was stuck. I mentioned I couldn't spend any money. And he
Mm,
said, well, this is a spec script. Spend as much money as you want. So I went berserk and had this ludicrous ending,
okay.
which would cost a fortune.
Yeah.
Uh, and that won the film scriptwriting award for that year.
Wow.
So I feel I can say I can write a film script.
Yes.
But your question is, could I convert one of my own books to a film script?
Mm,
That might be quite difficult. I might not be the best person to do that
right.
because I wouldn't want to cut anything.
Okay. Yes. Which you have to if you've only got
Yeah,
an hour and a half. Or
they're different animals.
yes.
I mean, certainly if you want to learn writing, I recommend writing one act plays and getting them performed and watching the audience. But
Mm,
also write a radio play, write a film script, write a short story,
mm,
try all the different mediums and find out what their strengths and weaknesses are in
sure.
comparison to your own strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. See,
Uh,
I've always had the BBC writers' room at the back of my brain
mm,
to write something and submit it for probably Radio 4.
mm.
Um, fancy doing a radio script of some kind, but I love dialogue. And like you, I think I don't know if there is. I suppose there is so more than there is such a thing as too much dialogue. But I looked up my review because Beth BB Elson left a lovely 5-star review for the serial data the other day. And I don't look at my reviews, but I noticed the one further down had a 1 star, and the heading was dull. And I call it my Marmite novel anyway, because it had, when it was traditionally published as a serial data shopping list, I did look at the reviews early on, and there was a 1 star that said, and I read it at 11 o'clock at night, it didn't bother me. I don't normally leave reviews for books, but this one was so bad I felt I had to. And that was 2018. And it at the end of the 2018, one of the bloggers on the blog tour announced her favourite book of the year, and it was that one.
Oh,
So it's gone from one extreme to the other. But
well,
this chap said there wasn't enough description about Izzy. But then
uh,
there's little description about Jack Reacher other than the fact that he's
well,
tall and
yes, because
broad.
you want to imagine he wants people to imagine
Yeah,
themselves as Jack Reacher. So it's just a
exactly.
tall person, isn't it?
And I am a step further than Lee Child, because on all the Jack Reacher books it's just a silhouette of him walking away, whereas on mine up there that's what she looks like.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
can't get
I
lucky.
also I
A
went
lot
to the
clearer in
Fringe a lot. I used to house manage up there in the Fringe.
mm.
So we'd do a shift for 8 hours. We'd watch shows for 8 hours. Then we'd go to the pub for 8 hours. Repeat for a fortnight.
Sounds idyllic, yes.
Yeah, and you
And then
see
you
an
sleep
amazing.
sleep when you get back.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
deal was you could see any show in the venues that we ran
Mm.
for free if
Okay.
they hadn't sold out. And they never sell out in the Fringe, so it's not really a problem. But the rule is because you were wearing the venue T-shirt, you weren't allowed to leave. So I sat through quite a lot
Oh,
of awful
right.
plays, which I really would have
Yeah.
liked to have left. So you start to imagine, well, how would I have done that? How would I?
Yes.
But
Yes.
up there, to come back to the point, you get shows that had an average of 3 stars,
Mm.
some of which would be good. But some of those shows were consistently getting 3 stars. But some of them were getting 6 stars and 1 star, 6 star, 1 star, averaging 3. And you think, well, that's
Yeah.
quite a different animal from the 3 star review.
Yes.
So,
No, exactly.
yeah.
And you hope if you've got some 1 stars, you hope you'll get a 5 star or a 4 star at least to bump it up the average. bump up the average a bit. But
Yeah.
there
But
we go.
often we would search out ones that got 5 stars and 1 star, and thinking, okay, there's something interesting about this, isn't
Yeah.
there?
Well, JK Rowling, she has both. So, and she's not done badly.
Not done badly.
So as our Joanne.
Mm.
Anyway, thank you so much. I'll see you shortly because there's New Street Authors,
Very
and
briefly.
we will be revisiting this topic in the not.
Yes, I mean, there's loads to say about
there is
formatting it and
yeah.
the way to go about it. But I think
And the lengths.
I mean,
We talked about one act play and
there's also
page per minute.
an awful lot more writing theory about writing film screenplays than there
Okay.
is about anything else, because Hollywood is all about money and they want the secret of how to write a good script.
Mm.
That's how they think of it. So that's why there's so much more material on how to write a screenplay. If you're writing a novel, you're supposed to sit in your garret, the muse strikes you, and you write this deathless prose.
Exactly.
But in screenplays, it's a lot more mythology and how to go about it, and strategies and
Oh, well, she look forward to part 2.
Part 2.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, David, as always.
Absolute pleasure.
And I shall be seeing you in half an hour.
In half an hour.
Yes. Bye. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.